Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I'm BA with James J. Train Martin and Jack Hurst. Hope you gentlemen are doing well this morning. We got your debate topics today. Jack's got some good ones for us. Let's start off with our first one. Of all the athletes from a past era, which one was more ahead of their time than anyone else? Go ahead. I'm going to go with James on this one.
That was Jack. I really love this question because it really hits home for I know you always discussing about questions that we should, that should be centered regarding what the current events are right now. But this is a pretty open question. It could be for all sports, including the draft. The NFL draft is about to happen. Basketball is going on right now. Playoffs, baseball. There's so many great players, Jack. I just had to name a few, but I got one specifically. I mean, I know one of these guys you got on my list. I mean, I picked Gale Sayers, Will Chamberlain, Lawrence Taylor, Sammy Baugh, Shaquille O'Neal. These are some of the names that you could mention that was just incredible players that were ahead of their time during in past era you mentioned. But I got to go with Lawrence Taylor. He just changed how the NFL he changed so many things. I know he was drafted in '81. He was one of two NFL MVPs, defensive MVPs, multiple 10 consecutive Pro Bowls, and he had 7 first-team All-Pros, 3 second-team All-Pros. But look, he changed the defense. I mean, the linebacker was projected to be just a guy that zone gap, gap zone block and to run, stop the run. But Lawrence Taylor was able to attack. His game was the attack because of his unusual strength and his speed, his height. He was able to attack the blind side, and it was on a consistent basis of a blind side. So, and they had to eventually, offenses had to either specifically add other players, like the invention of the H-back. That was done with Washington, Joe Gibbs, because they needed an extra blocker to help block off Lawrence Taylor. Bill Walsh, he's primarily shadow block. He used a player to be able to block, to help block a guard or a tackle, an extra guard or tackle to just shadow Lawrence Taylor. No matter where he was on the field, they had to shadow and make sure to protect. What else? Let me see. Bill Belichick's defensive scheme changed. It was more simplified because of the skill set of Lawrence Taylor. It was more attack scheme centric. The philosophy was more attack scheme centric. So it was just incredible, honestly, incredible, the type of player. And he modernized. He was the prototypical player that modernized the edge rusher. There was no such thing really as an edge rusher, like a David Bailey that's going to be drafted in the next coming. And what's the guy's name? I know he's the linebacker, but he's also considered an edge rusher too. Is Arvell Reese for the Jets. So I just think that
they're not the Jets drafting Arvell Reese. He's at Ohio State right now. You said Arvell Reese. You said Arvell Reese of the Jets.
Oh, he's going. Okay,
Bailey,
so I'm speaking into existence. I believe Arvell Reese will be
of Ohio State.
I believe he will be a Jet come the 23rd. You don't think so? We could that could be another debate question.
Not bad. I hope it's David Bailey, but Reese wouldn't be bad. I mean, I wouldn't be a terrible.
No, I agree with you. I like David Bailey. I like David Bailey more than Arvell Reese. I'm with you. But I'm just thinking that he may go to the Jets, though, Jack. Considering you got a player now, I know we get off topic here. I'll talk about that later. But yeah, my pick would be Lawrence Taylor, just because of how he changed the game ultimately and how the NFL shifted when he came into the league.
What did he just do things better? Was he really ahead of his time? I mean, it's not a bad pick, Lawrence Taylor, because if you ask people today who's the greatest defensive player of all time in the NFL, Taylor would get more votes than anyone else. So from that perspective, I can understand it. And defenses had to, protect against him in certain ways. But if you're going to pick from football, I think, and this isn't my pick, and I'm just saying what I think maybe you should have done originally, what you mentioned with Gale Sayers. No one had ever seen anything like Gale Sayers. We'd seen things like Lawrence Taylor, but guys just couldn't do it as well. But Gale Sayers was like a comet, Kansas Comet, like unheard of. Jim Brown. If Jim Brown played today, he would be obviously a very good player, maybe a great player. But Jim Brown was way ahead of his time. There was nothing like him. He was like 40, 50 years ahead of his time and how good he is. So my pick is going to be, actually, I'm going to detour to boxing, Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, even today, people are calling Sugar Ray Robinson the greatest fighter pound for pound of all time. And this is a guy who fought in the 1940s, 1950s, fought 1940 to 1965. And the athleticism he showed and the things he was doing were way ahead of his time. Other guys weren't doing it during, his time. It would take many, many years later. And the things that, he just accomplished, and just everyone at that time, raved that he was the best ever. And look at all these years later. In the 1960s, he was past his peak. But when you look at this, like 66 years later, you have someone like my co-host, Frank Laterzo, saying, oh, Sugar Ray Robinson, hands down, was the best ever. But of course, Laterzo never saw him fight at welterweight on film. But yet he's going to come up with that statement. I don't want to say people are brainwashed to a degree, but Robinson's greatness was so far ahead of anyone else's. I mean, even Muhammad Ali, who came later, he idolized Sugar Ray Robinson, and he'd always say, no, when I said I'm the greatest, I said I was the greatest heavyweight of all time, but Robinson was the greatest boxer of all time. Just guys didn't show that type of athleticism in the 1940s, 1950s, the way Robinson did. Some other people might say something like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, but just look at them take batting practice. Come on, guys. Would they have even been good players today? I don't know, but that's another debate. But Robinson was just so far ahead of his time with the things he did. And even today, like I said, he's the consensus pound for pound best fighter of all time. Like you ask, and he's endured that all those years.
So before you go, B, I just want to say, yeah, so fair enough, because I'm looking at the question. You saying, in past era, I agree that these players, you can look at them and say that, you would have to say that they can possibly play in any era.
Robinson competes easily.
Yeah,
today.
Easily in any era for today. Sure.
I
agree.
Don't listen to the nonsense. Like you'll hear that my co-host Frank Laterzo say, oh, well, if he fought Floyd Mayweather, it wouldn't even be a fight. Robinson would win easy. Come on, give me a break. It would be a tough fight. Very, very tough fight. Right. So don't get carried away with, guys, going too heavily on the past legends. It's something to that. Artie Donovan, the football player on the Baltimore Colts, a Hall of Famer. This was like 1994. I was interviewing him, helping a friend of mine writing a book, on Max Schmeling. And Artie Donovan's dad was the referee for the Joe Louis-Max Schmeling fight. And all of a sudden, Artie Donovan changes the topic to football because there was a big 49er Cowboy game the day before. And I just make a remark, how great Johnny Unitas was. He mentioned Joe Montana. Unitas was Donovan's quarterback, and he all of a sudden starts getting upset, saying, Montana couldn't carry Unitas' jockstrap. Come on, really? If Unitas was better, it's very close. And that's very debatable. Come on. These guys get carried away that one guy's so much better than another guy. I mean, you could take a great running back, today, and I could mention with Brian comparing him to Barry Sanders, and I don't want to hear, well, he's not even in Barry Sanders' league. If you take the best running back today, whoever it might be, I mean, give him credit at least being in the same category, but then say, well, but Barry Sanders is definitely better in my view. That opinion's okay, but the dismissiveness that people show, to protect their legends, they get a little too carried away.
Well, I got one for you. A guy that kind of changed the sport and how people look at it. Pele. People forget about Pele. Pele was a great athlete, and especially he basically put soccer, football, on the map because really nobody really had. I mean, besides Europeans, really, the United States people on this side of the hemisphere really didn't know too much about soccer. Well, obviously South America, but his name became pronounced because he was like the Michael Jordan of soccer. Dude, he was an extraordinary athlete. He was bigger than life. He had Guinness World Records too. I mean, the dude had his 1,279 goals in 1,363 games, is recognized as a Guinness World Record. Guinness World Record. He was phenomenal. I mean, I never really got into soccer. I'm still really not into soccer, but at that time when Pele was playing, man, I love the dude, especially with that drop kick that he used to do. He that was a patent. And he just ran roughage out of people as far as he was like their teammates called him a god. That's how much he changed his game in that sense, because if you got teammates and players around you calling you a god in that situation, I mean, you can't give anybody more respect than that.
I used to go see him play for the New York Cosmos. I'd make it a point. Yeah, that's a great one. Another athlete who was actually ahead of his time in a way was Dr. J, the way he dunked the ball and be in the air. I mean, you could say David Thompson did it too, to an extent, but Dr. J, he had that charisma. Now, so many guys are doing what Dr. J used to do, but he was ahead of his time, how he went about it, being in the air, and dunking the ball.
And I would say just one last person. I mean, Will Chamberlain. His athletic, because of his height, and he could have dominated in this era right now where he's at because of the height. And he was the first true athlete at that size that could move like a guard, but was big enough to be like the biggest guy on the court, and of course the 100-point game, and averaging. I mean, his total career, he averaged 30 points a game, 22 rebounds a game, and 4.4 assists a game. This is just crazy, just how great he was in that short span of, because I mean, he only lived to be 60, 61 or something like that. And he was still playing volleyball in his 40s, I think, different things like that. So yeah, it just shows you what kind of athlete he was. And then again, they had to bar dunking from free throws and change certain aspects to widen the lanes because of how big he was and dominant he was.
Yeah,
I was on the fence between Lawrence Taylor and him.
Yeah. All right. Next question. What is the single most exciting play in sports? You can pick from any sport. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, it's ironic, Brian, that when I clarified the question to you a little more so before the show, I asked you to name any sport. And it's like you read my mind. It was like, wow. I'm not even a big fan of this sport, but I did watch it last weekend, the Masters. It's the hole-in-one. I think that's the single most exciting play. I have another one in mind I'm not going to mention in case James is going to come up with it. But I think it's the hole-in-one. You watch the ball land, you watch it headed towards the hole, you hear the crowd kind of gasping, is it going to go in? And it's so rare, hole in one, and it's such a remarkable shot. When it's made, I can't think of one that can actually top it as far as accomplishment, excitement, crowd involvement. I mean, I know there's several. And if we go over every sport, there's one play in every sport that the people absolutely love seeing. That's really great to see. But that to me, and I'm not even a golf fan, but if I'm watching golf on TV, you see the ball hit, and how do you make a hole in one from that distance? It's off the charts.
Rick saying Hail Mary.
I see what Rick Sherlock is saying, but Rick, we see that a lot, not a lot, but we see it our shared times. And if you see something, your good shared times, is it as exciting? I'm not sure.
I mean, that's the exact look. I look exactly at what you said, Jack. I went through, I was like, in my head, I was thinking, like, what could be that? And you know what popped in my head? Just what you said. A hole in one popped in my head. But it's so rare, and it's honestly they're forgotten. I can't even name them. But I can name just what Rick said. I put number one, a deep bomb or Hail Marys. You can go Doug Flutie, Boston College. I can name so many. Westbrook. What's the guy's name? Cordell Stewart. Michael Westbrook. Colorado. You can go against your team. Unfortunately, Brian. Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, for sure. You just think it's just incredible, Jack. When at the end of a game, when somebody the Hail Mary, that's the one I picked.
The game on the line.
Yes, it just changes things.
And everyone there, it's very exciting. But
yes,
is it more exciting than a shot past half court? People never get tired at a long shot all the way down the court. Everyone goes crazy, even though it's just one basket. The players are going crazy. They even have they don't have contests, the Hail Marys, but they have contests with regular people, the half court shot, because of the.
I'm going to say that it's lost some of its luster because of the Steph Curry era, where everybody's shooting long distance threes now. It's not as rare as it used to be. It is still rare, like you said, but yeah. Yes, the Minneapolis Miracle. Yes, for sure. But yes, I just don't think that the 3-point or the long shot anymore it's not as exciting as it used to be because of how frequent people shoot.
No, it is. No way, it's not frequent. I'm not talking about 3-point shooting. I'm talking.
I know what you mean. I get it.
Deep past half court. That's what
I'm
for
talking sure.
About. Yeah. Steph Curry doesn't take the past half court shots unless it's a desperation situation. So you can't give that example. Every sport, baseball, we see enough home runs that can count. As a triple play, even though it's a rarity. We're talking about excitement that happens so quick. Hockey, I don't know, maybe the breakaway, one player going against the goalie. I mean, I'm not sure, but the last play of the game, the Hail Mary, with the game on the line, one last pass in the end zone, everyone crowded around there. Yeah, I mean, that's tremendously exciting.
You could reference like corner kicks in soccer. Which is hard to do because you're kicking from one side of the field into a goal. That's with a goalkeeper. That is exciting. Corner kicks are exciting in soccer.
Yeah, but not the way. It doesn't measure up to the other examples. I'm not talking about execution. How wonderful the players drawn up. I mean, just to get a charge out of the crowd that the crowd enjoys the most watching.
Well, Jack, you've obviously never been to a soccer match before.
I have. A corner kick is not as exciting as a hole in one or a Hail Mary.
Yeah. probably not to us Americans, no, but to Europeans, a corner kick is the shiznitzel of Europe because it's soccer. That's something they do all the time. And I mean, they watch that sport constantly, where they don't watch American football.
Well, if you said the bicycle kick, that would be more.
That would be good too. Yeah, the bicycle kick would be good. Yeah, depending on who's doing it. The guy could
break his back on a bicycle kick. It's not worth it. You have to risk it.
Yeah. Okay, so we kind of exhausted that one. Next question. Zion Williamson says he is turning over a new leaf and will be fully dedicated going forward. Should we believe him? James, go ahead, because this is your guy.
Well, Zion Williamson has had I wouldn't say more mercurial career, but he's definitely had some ebbs and flows and ups and downs to his career because of largely because of injury, and also the injury is likely due to poor conditioning, not taking care of his diet. I don't want to harp on the man, but he's a guy that had a food clause in his contract. So if it's there in his contract, I can kind of say food would happen to be the problem, especially if you're being in New Orleans. I mean, but it looks like he's been in shape. This last year he played 30 games. He played 65 games this season, averaged 21 points. So it's his career average, the highest he's had in his second year was 20. He played like 60 plus games, 61 games, and he had like 27 points a game. So I don't know if he doesn't have to score as much because he has talent around him. And that's where I'm going to go and say that, yes, I believe him, that it looks like he's been taking care of himself. And I don't think he can do anything more physically besides maybe probably, increase some to his repertoire, maybe a 3-point game or something, start shooting a little bit further out. Because, a guy like him, he's playing inside. He's dominant on the inside, but maybe he can expand the game and expand and make things better for his teammates if he can also shoot outside as well. But I love the talent that's around him. I think Joe Dumars is probably the right guy for the job there, because now I'm starting to hear things from Zion as a more mature Zion, saying that he's obviously becoming the leader of this team. And you have people like Sadiq Bey there. I love the vets that are there. DeJounte Murray. Look like he's bought in as well, because he wasn't too happy. I think they're probably going to dump or trade Poole. And I thought that was a bad pickup for them. And I like the rookies. Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen look like the future of that team. And so they have an opportunity here. I think the biggest question mark it would be the health of Zion Williamson and head coach. Who's going to be the head coach there? So, but other than that, everything else seems like it's in place, and they can only add more with this draft coming up and free agency, the upcoming free agency. But the biggest question to me would be the head coach and the health of Zion. But I think he did well. He played 65 games this year, so that's a lot for him. That's more than some of the guys that were up for, like Luka Doncic and Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards. They didn't play 65 games. So I mean, the amount that he played. So I look forward to New Orleans being a lot better than what they were under the guise of having great leadership with Joe Dumars and also a revitalized Zion Williamson.
James, no one asked about the New Orleans Pelicans. It gives a darn how they're doing. That we're talking about Zion Williamson, and you want to go over the whole Pelican roster. No one gives a darn, especially at this time of year with the playoffs coming. The playoffs taking place, and the Pelicans came nowhere near even being a play-in team. So we're talking Zion Williamson. Let's be focused on it. He says he's turning over a new leaf and will be fully dedicated going forward, should we believe him. Where have you been, Zion, your whole NBA career? Now you're deciding you're turning over a new leaf. It's nice. You're going to get inspired. Maybe he could do it for one season. I don't know. Maybe he'll dedicate himself a couple of months and then he'll be back to being Zion. He'll be, this is a guy who should be an all-time great player. Zion Williamson was so great coming out of college that he was considered the absolute can't miss. And the only one who warned us against him, and even he was wrong, was Jalen Rose. Jalen Rose said, you better be careful because Zion Williamson might turn out to be no more than just a perennial all-star. Imagine that. That's downplaying. That's the worst he was going to be. Jalen Rose warned us, and he's not a perennial all-star. Now, he got worse than that. And why? Because, he's probably on his couch with a big giant bag of chips, eating it each, night. Maybe goes on a diet for a week or something now and then. And he can't, Zion Williamson, you're pointing to his stats. He can't help but being a good player because he's so ultra talented. He can't be a bad player. He's got to be a good player because of how great he is. Okay, how great he is as far as talent goes. And should we believe him? No, we shouldn't believe him. Let him prove us otherwise. That's fine. And if he does prove us otherwise, we could say to Zion, but all the evidence showed us we shouldn't believe you. And all of a sudden you're showing up. Give me one more chance. What's he going on? His fifth chance? We should believe him? Where was he all this time? So in other words, we're hearing he wasn't as dedicated as he should have been all this time. And I kind of wonder, does a new contract have anything to do with this? I mean, he's made plenty of money, but I kind of wonder. But you're right about what you said. Joe Dumars, good man. I like Joe Dumars a heck of a lot. Very intelligent, great leader. He was that way as a player. He strikes me as being that way as an executive. And the Pelicans, like I said, did well to have Joe Dumars there. But how much influence he has on Zion Williamson, I don't know. It's got to come from within. Bernard Hopkins, former middleweight champion, always used to say, I never needed an alarm clock to get me up in the morning to do my road work. I know what I have to do. I know what's my responsibility as a professional. Zion, like a food clause in his contract? I mean, that's crazy. A food clause? You mean to tell me he can't sneak, a Big Mac now and then as he's driving?
Probably not. It's probably in there. It probably got descriptive words regarding, no biggie fries, no nothing. I mean, you can't do any of this. I would say, I'm going to say, like we've just mentioned Joe Dumars. You said that Joe Dumars is a great leader there. But you saying you mentioned also Bernard Hopkins didn't need an alarm clock. Some people do. Most people do. Most people need an alarm clock to get up. So I mean, and I'm just saying that for this instance, Zion may need a good leadership. I think everybody needs good leadership, and his revised contract, and you can see the difference in him between this year and last year and the past years when he was totally out of shape. He stayed in shape for the majority of his career. I mean, of this season, Jack. This past season.
Let me invoke this is going to annoy Brian a little bit, but let me finish the statement. Let me invoke your idol, Isaiah Thomas, what he said to the GM. What was his name? Jack McCluskey with the Pistons. McCluskey was talking once, and he said what he learned from Isaiah is leadership comes from within. It doesn't come from the coach, the GM, from within. And Zion's got to be, it has to come strictly from him. He's got to have that desire. And it hasn't been there all these years. Can he dedicate himself for a year or two? It's conceivable he can. But he's already has a long-term record of not being dedicated. I can't believe that he's going to do this long-term. Maybe short-term, perhaps. But I just can't believe he's turned over a new leaf.
Well, I'll tell you like this. I think that, we always start off with good players that get injured a lot. Well, if he could just be healthy, he would be, a dominant factor. Well, this is Zion's biggest problem. He is not, his availability is the best ability. He's not doing that. And if he means that he's going to get better as far as his health is concerned, because I really don't see too much what's going on with his game. He is still a dominating factor when he plays. The point of the matter is you have to be out there in the court to make a difference on your team. And this is something that he's not doing on a consistent basis. I mean, being that 70 games in his 2023-2024 season was the most he played, since he's been with New Orleans. That's kind of telling right there. He goes 20. He started off. He had 24 games in his rookie, season. 24 games he played. Then he played 61, 29, 70, 30, 62. Going, 6-7. He's not consistent, and he does need to be consistent. He needs to really focus on his health. He needs to, make sure that he is putting down the, etouffee or whatever he's eating there in New Orleans. He needs to put that stuff down. He needs to really focus on his team, period. If you want, and I know and Jack's right, it's a contract year. So this is probably part of his, part of his, rectum to get that going so he can get paid, because right now, I don't think New Orleans wants to pay him any money. They'd rather trade him and see what they can get for him. He's got to come out and fight next year. If you don't come out and fight next year and he's talking all this stuff, I mean, it's going to be like, again, you got to go with Jack with this one. It's going to be the same old Zion. He has got to stop. He's got to play a lot of games this year. He's got to play a lot of games in this next season. It's crazy.
People are dismissive of Zion. If I tell people the two biggest impact players a team can trade for in the off season would be Giannis, obviously, would be number one. And if I say Zion, and no one will argue that, everyone would love to have Giannis on their team. But if I say Zion next, people will laugh it off. Come on, he can't stay healthy. He's out of shape. They're dismissive. And he's the type of player that if you gamble and make a trade with and he shows up in top form, he could be a major difference maker for your team. But no one trusts him. No one trusts him. You hope that he's going to be in shape. You hope. A guy like Giannis, he'll do everything he can to be at his best. And that's with virtually any player. With Zion, you just hope for the best. And that's not good. That means we can't believe him, what he says. He might mean it when he says it, but you can't believe him.
You're muted.
That's where I have to disagree, because I think Joe Dumars has bought in, to keep him there. And so the relationship between him and Dumars seems like it's on a really good level to where Zion's bought in. Zion's also bought in as well. I mean, that's another thing. New Orleans hasn't been good either. You would think a player like him would change things around, but like you said, B and Jack, obviously we know this, that he couldn't stay healthy. So you're like, what it could have been during his time here. But Zion he's only going to be 26 years old coming up. He's only going to be 26 years old. So he's still young enough and athletic enough and to be able to work on these things here. And it looked like he's been doing that the past couple of seasons. It's just unfortunate, man. Some of those soft tissue injuries will take you out. And but I believe that he has the mindset to go ahead and figure it out. I love what he said at the press release in regards to what he wants to do to be able to help his team out. He wants to figure it out. And he's taking accountability. That's the main thing. He's verbally just put it out there like a lot of this is on me. But after the season's end.
You guys are the GM of the Pelicans. The Lakers call you at the end of the season And the Lakers aren't going to go for it. They offer you Austin Reeves for Zion. Do you make the deal 1-for-1?
No, not at all.
You don't make it, Brian?
No.
If I get Austin Reeves, I need some draft picks along with that.
Okay, that's not good enough. You have the faith in that. What about Carl
Without a
Anthony
doubt.
Towns? If the Knicks call and they offer you Carl Anthony Towns for Zion, even up.
Mm.
Who? Carl Anthony Towns?
Carl Anthony. Okay, you guys on the fence. The idea you're thinking it over with Carl Anthony Towns. Now, if you were guaranteed of Zion being fully dedicated, the answer would probably be no, you don't trade him for Carl Anthony Towns. But because you have doubt about Zion, let's take a chance. We know what Carl Anthony Towns, he's a bit lazy at times, but he usually shows up, even though he might be a little bit of an underachiever. He's more likely to fill the negative gaps than Zion is.
To me, what I see in Zion Williamson is the same thing you saw in Michael Jordan, the same thing you saw in Charles Barkley. Let me finish. You saw the same thing in Michael Jordan. You saw the same thing in Charles Barkley. You saw the same thing in players who attack. They attack. They're not afraid. This to me, and looking at Carl Anthony Towns, I'm not saying he's not afraid, but he's not a guy that's going to be in the paint often. He likes to come out to the outside a lot. And to me, Zion Williamson is not afraid of that area. Nowhere near in that area. That's what I mean in that particular. That part of his game.
I would never trade Zion for Carl Anthony Towns if I'm the Pelicans. If I thought I had a motivated Zion who'd do everything, he tried to be in tip-top shape to be on the court. But we don't trust him. That's the point about him turning over a new leaf. The idea that you guys hesitated means you have some doubts. You might think, more likely than not, I have a feeling he will, but I can't be sure.
Well, what about Giannis for Zion?
No, that's crazy. No, are you out of your mind? I mean, Pelicans are making the snap of a finger. That would be insane.
Yeah, I'm about to say Milwaukee will be asking for extra picks or more players too.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
so that's what you got to do. But that's what you got to do in these trade situations, these hypothetical trade situations. If you're going to trade 1-for-1, you got to find a player that's just as adept as Zion is.
I know. Maybe we should have saved this as a debate question, but we could talk about it a little bit now if time permits. What's the best possible deal the Bucks are going to be making in the offseason for Zion? Of course, the playoffs might have a bearing on that, a team that might be disappointing. But the team with the best chip to give him might be Austin Reeves, who could be an outstanding player for Milwaukee if he goes there. But 1-for-1 with Zion, I don't know whether the Lakers have any other chips to give. And I don't know who. I mean, with Toronto, with Scotty Barnes, part of a deal to go to Milwaukee. If I'm Milwaukee, I'm intrigued. If I could get Scotty Barnes, and maybe something else. But even Scotty Barnes alone wouldn't be a bad deal for Milwaukee. Giannis with Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes will be a top-of-the-line player for years to come.
There's a lot of deals. That could be made for that particular. It's intriguing. I don't know if It all depends on what LA wants to do. If you're talking about Austin Reeves, if LeBron doesn't play there next year and he goes to another team, you still got your one guy there, and then you got Nikolai there, and then you got Reeves there, and you really kind of want to build around those two players because Reeves is still relatively young, and Nikolai is just as young. So you want to try to base that, and that's to get that LA team back to where it needs to be at. To tell you the truth, they need to start fresh. I don't think they'll get rid of Austin Reeves just beyond the fact that if LeBron leaves.
I don't think LeBron's going to leave because he's not going to go to Golden State. They're long in the tooth. He sees they can't win a championship. They're rebooting or rebuilding Golden State. either goes to Cleveland or stays with the Lakers. I think though it's going to be those two, unless LeBron does something that's absolutely off the charts, and I'd love it. Actually, as a free agent, goes to the Knicks, takes a little less money. He would turn the city upside down with the excitement that LeBron is here in New York. And LeBron is one of the most amazing athletes of all time. I think he could play at a high level next year. The guy is incredible.
This is true. This is definitely true. Okay. All right. Next question. Dana White is trying to take over the sport of boxing much as he has in the UFC. Will he be successful in achieving his goal? Jack, you got the count on this one.
He'll have short-term success a lot, but no, not in the long run. You know what this reminds me of? You want to hear blueprint, guys, and this is a good time to mention it with this being the WrestleMania weekend. It's like when Ted Turner got involved with the WCW, and that's what it was called, right? And he went against Vince McMahon. The WCW was outdrawing the WWE, for quite a number of years. They really took over as number one for a while, but in the long run, McMahon won out in the long run. And right now, Dana White, he's taking on all the promoters, especially him and Eddie Hearn are going back and forth on that. But Eddie Hearn knows boxing. He knows promoting. There are a lot of fighters to go around. Now, if Dana White is absolutely obsessed with winning and blowing everyone out of the water, he can do that, but at an incredible financial loss to himself, an incredible financial loss. Just offer these crazy mega deals like an owner in sports. You could sign any free agent you want if you're going to blow all the other teams out of the water with what you're going to offer them, but it's going to backfire on you in the long run. You might have a few good years, and that's even debatable, but it catches up to you. And like Dana White, I see him on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith. He brings along Conor Benn, and they're bragging about signing Conor Benn to this new deal with Zuffa Boxing, the name of their group, Dana White. Conor Benn's not that good. I mean, to get caught up on it, but I also understand it's about personalities. You match him against Ryan Garcia, but Ryan Garcia is under contract to Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions. But Dana White's offering all these guys so much more money than the other promoters. They're going to flock to him. But fighters are coming up all the time. Dana White can't keep overpaying. I know what Dana White's plan is. Pay all this money now, get a stranglehold, get everyone on the contract, then start paying them less and less and less, where you're going to start paying them the way the UFC fighters are getting paid. I mean, if he can execute that, more power to him, where fighters have to fight more for a lot less money. I mean, what's he going to do next? Take over the NBA? And your top guys, instead of making, $60 million a year, are going to make $10 million a year? I mean, that's the same thing. He can do it for a little while. He's going to make tremendous inroads, a tremendous impact. But in the long run, things are going to start turning the other way. Dana White, in about 6-7 years or whatever, is going to get out of the sport. He's going to claim victory, but he's just going to say that he was just tired of all the dealing with it. And he proved his point. He's going to say, and now he's with the UFC. So no, he's not going to take over the sport of boxing and make it the same as he did with the UFC, even though short term, he's going to, really sock it to the players in boxing and really, drop an atomic bomb on them. But in the long run, the answer is no.
So when I saw this question, I was like, well, Jack, far more, you probably forgot more information regarding boxing than I know, as far as the knowledge and sport of boxing. But in regards to Dana White, I see that is it Zuffa? What is it in Saudi
Zuffa, yeah,
Arabia?
the Zuffa, yeah,
So
Zuffa
I mean,
boxing.
it sounds like he may be onto something, Jack. I mean, Jack, where a little more innovative. Because my question is, it's not. I look at this question and say, can he take over the sport of boxing? The question should be, where he is he going to revitalize boxing or bring it back to where it was, or elevate and change it to something different than what it is? Because currently, right now, the more spectacles that you have are people who are past their prime, who are most of the boxers are past their prime now that you people want to go and watch. We're talking about Mayweather, Pacquiao, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. I mean, this is where has boxing gone? Is the question? Is
Mhm.
like so why not allow to see if something else could try to shift it and maybe bring back a little bit what it was? I don't think it'll ever get back to what it was I think the 90s is probably the last great boxers that you probably see, particularly the heavyweight division. I don't know. You may know more than me in regards to who are great in the heavyweight division, but it's not as what it was, man. And so I would think Dana White could possibly change things and take over and make it differently, because a lot of people do like MMA. I'm not specifically a fan of it. I think it's a little brutal. Uh, Boxing can be brutal, but it's not as much as MMA. But I think where the audience, the core audience is right now, and I mean, we're not like purists like yourself or guys like us that like to watch boxing. I just think that looking at what's making the money and what the attractions are, it's going to be different. I think Dana White can probably. I think not just for the short term, Jack. I think for the long term, I think he can uh, be successful in that arena
Well,
in boxing.
it's so outrageous what boxing is. It's like an entertainment business. Fighters don't have to do things based on merit for the most part. Let's say Dana White, imagine this, and this goes on in boxing as insane as it is, but imagine Dana White tries to take over the NBA, has a say, and the Detroit Pistons earn their way into the NBA Finals. But Dana White decides they're not as big a draw as the Knicks, and I want the Lakers against the Knicks in the finals. No one wants to see OKC as good as they are. So he'd want a Laker Knicks series because that would be better for ratings than OKC and the Pistons, a lot better. And so now we were going to get the Lakers against the Knicks for the NBA championship, even though the Lakers would have lost in 5 games early in the playoffs. That's what goes on. Like I was telling Brian, I think before the show, Ryan Garcia, the fight before last, he loses badly to Raleigh Romero, an ordinary fighter, but yet they're building him up to be in this big mega fight now, a couple of fights later. That's what goes on. It's just the brand names, the entertainment. Things aren't done on merit in boxing. But the point is, Dana White, he could try to buy the sport, but you buy the sport, you're losing all this money in the interim. Unless you could market the guys so great that, they'll make you a profit. But he feels he can do it. But Dana White's been underpaying the guys in the UFC. He's been underpaying them severely. So when an athlete in a sport is used to getting paid a certain amount of money, let's say someone like Shakur Stevenson got a few million his last fight, whatever, 6, 7 million or whatever he got. Now you're going to pay him 600,000 for his next fight, and you think and tell him you have no choice but to take it. It's not going to happen. There are other promoters out there who are always going to offer more than Dana White when Dana White's pay scale goes down. So he's always going to have, there are going to be problems for Dana White. This is like Ted Turner taking over wrestling. He's going to have a big effect for a while, Dana White, but eventually I think it catches up to him.
Let me ask you this. What do you think, Jack, are the 3 failings in boxing right now? And do you think that, and then compare that to what Dana White can do? So if you take three failings of of what boxing is right now, do you think Dana White could fix those failings, in your opinion?
Dana White has good ideas. I mean, good ideas. He's seen boxing shows. There's a big gap of time between fights at live shows. He moves things along. I mean, he runs a better night event than the sport does now. You know, there was a show at Madison Square Garden last night, and it was held by Jake Paul's MVP Promotions. Jake Paul is doing a great job trying to promote women's boxing. People don't realize that about him. He's a promoter. And I tried to find out why I applied for press credentials. I did. They never got back to me. I'm not even sure I applied to the right person. That's how vague it was. And I was glad they didn't, because I noticed they were going on ESPN with the main part of the card after 10 in the evening. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to get back till 2, 3 in the morning. Who needs this? You know, and the names aren't that big. And I was relieved they didn't get back to me.
Way past your bedtime, Jack?
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. No, a big fight I am. You know, Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz. I mean, Alexander Zayas when they're fighting in June. Yeah, I mean, shows like that. And when Jake Paul early in his career, when he fought in Miami, okay, I got back 3 in the morning from the show in Miami, and I thought, this is insane. I mean, if I go to a baseball game, an NBA game, I'm not getting back this late. It's got to end at a reasonable time. I mean, you want your events ending like at 1 in the morning? Does that make sense? I mean, what other sport ends their event 1 in the morning? If it's a baseball game, that's crazy. A baseball game that starts at 7, if it ends at 11, that's considered really late.
No fault of the baseball, obviously, if you're playing that competitively and it lasted in. But I think right now, with the sport of boxing being as weak as it is at the moment, I think Dana White could bring a lot of spark to it. I don't know how long his sustainability will be for the sport.
That's it.
But you know, starting it off, he might spark something and get it going, to where other promoters and other big names will get into the situation where they can not make, like James says, boxing is not going to be as great as it used to be, but it can get to that level where there's more excitement for the sport if there's a lot more people tagging along with it and not making the sport all, you know, Jake Paul versus, you know, Mike Tyson kind of things. I mean, people are intrigued, but they don't want to see. They want to see actual people going for the heavyweight title. They don't want to see people that's thrown in the ring for no reason at all. You know what I'm saying? And Jack, you're really good on the whole fact that boxing has taken that effect now, where it's just like you're throwing everybody in the ring to get some people to come out there, and it's social media is damaging to the sport of boxing, in my opinion. You got everybody out there just doing everything. So, well, I would probably get a good promoter to start it off. I think Dana White would probably be the guy that you want to get that going. And I know he's not the greatest person in boxing, you know, that knows the sport of boxing like he should, but that'll catch some eyes of people who are saying, you know what, if Dana White can go here, and we don't want to ruin the sport completely, because Dana, you know, to your benefit, Dana probably will do that in the long run. You want to get more people involved in it that are boxing, to have knowledge in boxing, and that are in that financial situation where they can help and make the sport of boxing better again.
He has good ideas. Yeah, he has good ideas. He wants boxers to box more frequently, not be worried if you lose a couple of fights. It's not a setback. Like, the fighters are so overprotective now, not wanting to take chances. So, you know, he has good ideas, but I know what the big picture is with Dana White, and the big picture is outbid everyone now, pay the elite fighters, the good fighters, more money than their promoters will now, you know, get them to sign with him, and then eventually get a stranglehold of them basically, I don't want to use the word monopoly on the sport, and then start paying him less because he holds like all the cards and all the power at that time, and the fighter's going to be getting paid a lot less. Is that necessarily bad for the sport? No. Is it necessarily wrong? No. A lot of fighters have this feeling of entitlement. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we see it in other sports like the NBA with load management. For the amount that these guys are getting paid, we don't feel like paying. They're like spoiled to a large degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
You guys probably know guys who playground players. They play basketball for the love of it in the playground. If you offered them $100,000 a year to play 82 games and travel and be at the nicest hotels, they would jump on it and play for $100,000 a year. And they would love the life, the hotels and being able to play every day.
For the love of the game, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't see
what
that
I do want to say about the sport, I want to say about boxing, period, is that the reason why I mentioned that it will never be like the biggest thing, Jack, could we agree that the biggest division in boxing used to be the heavyweight division? I mean,
traditionally the heavyweight division, yeah, traditionally, yeah.
Yes. But that being said, you're not going to get a 6'5" or 6'6" guy or super, heavyweight like Lennox Lewis and all those guys that were that Riddick Bowe, guys with that size. You're not going to get those guys at that size because they can make a lot more money playing football or basketball, doing those type of sports, and it's guaranteed money, and you don't have to deal with a whole bunch of middlemen.
I disagree with that thought. I've heard a lot of other people say that. So
yeah, but who can you name though, Jack? Who can you name? Who could you name that's in the boxing sport that's literally been that size? I mean, not just one guy. I mean, a broad, like it used to be. We can go back to I hate to say your day and age you. But we're talking about like guys like Ernie Shavers, Muhammad Ali, all those guys. You can
play other sports. They weren't good athletes. But the point is, people go into sports not with the thought that they could make a living at it. They go in for love of the sport. Whatever they go into. There are rare exceptions like Too Tall Jones. Too Tall Jones, I interviewed him. He told me that boxing is the greatest sport in the world. His favorite sport, but he became a football player, because of the economic factors playing with the Cowboys. But he would have preferred, being a full-time boxer over full-time NFL player. Yeah, but it got to the point where he knew he could earn the big money. But when you're young, you're never figuring out you're going to make a living out of it. You go into it because it's something you do, you love doing it.
Well, and I know and those are good points, really, for the boxing. Boxing just needs to change somehow, some way. And if Dana White can be the guy to change it, then so be it. I have that. Just as long as somebody can come in there and clean up the stuff that he started a little bit, so that he doesn't destroy the credibility of boxing at the same time.
Boxing's credibility is already destroyed. Nothing to lose.
We don't want to keep destroying it. That's the point.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been a pleasure debating with you, gentlemen. I'm BA James J. Train Martin and Jack Hurst for all of us here. We will see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. for the Sunday Morning Sports Podcast. Everybody have a great day.